strange to me, but that's fine.
Easy stats.
It is what it is.
Boats.
What did we end up calling last week's episode on?
By Eric Nyberg.
I didn't hear him.
Oh, can you guys hear me okay?
You're kind of skipping.
You're kind of quiet. Yeah.
You're a little auto-tuney, a little
Gregis.
A little pre-Wi-Fi Gregis. So
Okay.
Our Apple podcast
or pre-Ethernet
from last week that got a kind of serious name, right? I'm guessing.
Yeah, it did. It was like,
good.
Okay, we're live.
Yeah,
we're live.
We're live, Nyberg.
Sorry.
All right, we're live. Do you want me to drop the link in Zoom? Is that helpful or is that not necessary?
You can actually copy it from the upper left-hand corner. It says live on YouTube.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that.
Live from
Good
YouTube.
looking out.
2.5 months of this, and I had no idea that was
Copy
possible.
streaming link. Perfect. Okay. We are now up
I
to
feel
20
nervous for this topic. I feel
followers
like
on
how
Twitter.
I felt before we did the discernment topic.
And then it wound up being really awesome, though, right?
And then it did end up being awesome. I did say a
Hey.
rosary for us earlier today. So now you know it'll be good.
Now it's in Mary's hands, so now there's no going back.
Now it's in Our Lady's hands.
Dishwasher, I'll be right back.
I will definitely be like referencing that one. I think that one does overlap with this one a little bit. The discernment.
Discernment?
One.
Oh, for sure. I agree. Wow, we just got a new subscriber. Got a couple new subscribers today. Okay, cool. All right. Oh, Eric just peaced out. When Eric comes back, we'll pray.
Yeah.
I'm posting it on Facebook right now.
Perfect.
Awesome. Has anyone posted it in Slack?
Yep.
Nice.
And like I was saying, we got up to 20 Twitter subscribers. So now
working our way up there. It's that link
up
tree
there.
in Instagram. We're approaching 200 followers on Instagram, and guys, that's mentionable.
That's the first big milestone.
We got it. We got to start doing on Instagram though. The memes are great, but the algorithm doesn't circulate memes well because there aren't faces in the pictures. So we need to start getting some pictures in there that actually have our faces in them.
Who's the most photogenic? What's the face that will get us the most likes?
Mary Kate.
Eric's mustache.
Thank you, Eric. Eric's mustache.
Yeah.
Once John gets that flow just really going, it's
yeah.
Are they gonna allow
it's looking good. I'd say it's good.
It's a good length right now, John.
It's a good hockey flow right now. Like you're a hockey player.
That is 100% true. I agree. I concur. All right, let's pray. And then I'll do the usual contextual info before we kick it to the questions. So does anyone want to lead us in prayer?
I'll do it.
Nice, Dan.
Okay, let's do this. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord God, Holy Trinity, you've made man and woman for each other. We pray that we may understand the beauty and the mystery of what it means to be man and woman, and in the relationship that you have called us to with each other, and most especially with you. Help us to have wisdom and courage on this topic. And we pray for all those, all men and women who are currently seeking and desire to be in deep and intimate relationship with each other. We pray for them, and we ask you, Lord God, that you continue to bless all marriages, and continue in all vocations to guide us to yourself. We ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.
That was a good prayer, Dan.
Right on.
I like that.
Right on.
Straight from the brain of Father Dan. That was great.
Oh,
Yeah.
Got
hot take number one.
No, it's not a hot take. Okay. So where are we at? Last week, you know what? I'm going to start doing this at the beginning. If you're watching this right now, subscribe to the channel, like the video, do all the things. We are on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Find us everywhere. so that you
Nice.
never miss a TCI on a Monday ever again for the rest of your life.
And if you
That's
did
how
happen to
long we
miss
intend
last
keep doing
week's,
these.
if you happen to miss last week's, you should go and watch it because
Yes.
it was fantastic. If you
Because
want
it
to,
was great. It was really
That was
good.
so
It was
awesome.
yeah.
really good commentary on like everything that's going on right now with, you know, just race relations and the death of George Floyd. Wow. And some of those other things. Does anybody have like a reflection on that they want to share? Like some thoughts? I know some of you guys, like, obviously were not on the stream last week. So like, do you have any thoughts about just everything that's going on in the world or anything Lewis and John had to say last week?
I just want to thank Lewis and John for coming on. And I was more than willing to step aside and allow people to have more thoughts on the matter than me and more intelligent thoughts for sure.
We were
So-
more than willing to kick you off. So
Yeah, there we go. And if you don't recognize me, I'm not a new member of this group. I just had to shave, unfortunately. So no.
John, why'd you have to shave? It's good news.
Why did I shave? Well, Kevin, I shaved because my mom has been praying nonstop for me to get a job, and her prayers are answered. I am now a nurse at Rush University Medical Center. So yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
The only casualty was your
Yay.
beard.
Yeah, that's okay. It's a worthwhile offering, right, John?
Yeah.
Your beard gave its life so that John could fly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just thought it was great last week, and I really appreciated all the commentary provided. So
Cool.
Mm.
I forgot to mention really quick that we have a friend who is a new who's a new addition to TCI for the evening on with us tonight. Eric, do you want to give like a quick intro to yourself? Like, what do you do? How'd you get involved with St. Al's?
Sorry.
Why do you care about this topic?
Yeah. Okay. I've been involved in St. Al's longer than all of you guys on this video. So that's a fun little tidbit.
you're the reason I came to St. Al's Nyberg.
Oh,
He was friends with the actual St. Al's.
I know St. Alphonsus personally. Dear friend. No. To be more clear, I've been coming to St. Al's events for the past 10 years, but I didn't really get involved until maybe about 4 years ago when I met a lot of these gentlemen at the St. Al's men's group. I met Kevin Gregus there. I met Dan Karenchin there, met Marty Sellers there. And then later I lived with John, who's on the call too, and got him involved. And now he heads it up, which is great. So that's kind of my very short summary connection with why I know. And I've of course met Mary Kate now. I've known you for 3 years now?
Yeah, 2 or 3 years.
3 years.
Praise God. Praise God. Yeah.
So I'm very thankful to know all of you guys, and thanks for inviting me to join. It's my pleasure.
Sick. Thanks for joining. Any other reflections about last week? Sorry, that was kind of like, maybe I could have picked the time.
Jumping all over the place, but it's all right.
I know, we're all over
That's
the
how we
place.
do.
It's just how we do things here.
Yeah, I had some thoughts about it. I mean, the whole topic was just at the forefront of my mind for a solid week, and it still is in many ways. There's so much to think about. There's just trying to weigh the things that I learned from Lewis and John against my own personal experience, and just seeing, and just really, I guess, just realizing I have so much to learn on that topic, and it's just been really, it was so good to just have a sit down conversation and talk about it, as opposed to like the social media just kind of shouting from across the room. So that was really great. I felt really great afterwards, and though I know there's so much work ahead of us, like as a country, human race. I mean, we're all sinners too, but I don't know. It just gave me a lot of hope that we could just kind of sit down and talk about it. That was great, and yeah, I just pray that happens more and more across the country.
Yeah, I think that's pretty consistent, Dan, with like most of the feedback that we got. I got so many messages, you guys, from people who were just like, thank you for doing that. Because it is one of those things that I think we find ourselves sort of getting caught up in the polarization of like, you either fall on one side of the issue or the other. And yeah, I'm just really grateful that like Lewis and John both are just willing to have the conversation. And I was just really grateful too that they were able to put it in terms that as Catholics we can like really contextualize. You know, like it's different hearing it from fellow Catholics who see the world, you know, sacramentally, et cetera, in the way that we see the world. And then also who have like, you know, that personal experience with it at the same time. So I thought that was huge. Nice. So we have been talking about doing this episode for 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, basically since the women did theirs, right?
Well, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So
That
the
was great,
girls,
They did a great job.
thanks. Yeah, it was really, I thought it went really well when we did it. And there were some really good questions and some like really great participation in the chat. So I hope we get kind of that kind of participation tonight. Everyone should always feel free to comment in the chat. If you're like, you know, someone who's just more of like a bystander and you see all of the boys aggressively like commenting in the chat, you should just ignore them and say whatever you want. So that's what I would do if I were in the chat. Yeah, anyways, so if you're in the chat, actually, and always, hey, if you're like a girl and you don't want to comment in the chat, but you have a question, you should just find me on Facebook right now and Facebook message me and I will get it on my phone and I will ask the question.
Your future husband might be in the comment section, so type away.
Well, yeah, maybe that also. Cool. So we've been talking about doing this for a long time. Yeah, these questions came directly from women in our community. So these are not questions I came up with. And I actually, for what it's worth, ladies, like I initially was like, took some of these questions to the men after they were asked of me. And I was like, I'm being distracted by the Zoom chat. I brought these questions to the men and I was kind of like, I don't know if I feel comfortable asking these questions. And the guys wanted to do it. So I think that should tell us something about, you know, the coming conversation. But also, and I'm saying it out loud for accountability, this is not my, I'm not here to answer these questions. I'm just here to facilitate this conversation. So I'm really going to try to not throw in my 2 cents. And this is going to be about what the men think. Okay. So you guys, if I start sharing my opinion, somebody give me like I know Dan will just privately message me like, you know.
No. What you do is if you're starting to share your opinion, you need to do your mic effect and drop your voice down real low. And then you can start talking about men's dating and you're fine.
That's true. And then it's just perfectly, yeah, then it's actually fine. So, all right. Anyways, so let's get to it. All the, you know, I got to like give my like full half an hour's worth of context before we do anything. So, okay. So what do we got? First and foremost, I think this is a good stage setter. I know, you know, we all know that there are strong opinions in this group of men about what men should be doing to actually like discern vocation, pursue relationships, yada, yada, yada. So I think we can like get that out of the way right off the bat.
We have a whole podcast episode about.
Oh my gosh. Hi guys.
Oh, hey.
Hi. We got some.
What's up?
Get out of the
You
group.
guys should just stay.
Out of the
They
group and
should
into the
just
chat.
stay.
Out of the group and into the chat. We need you
Oh my
boys.
gosh.
Oh yeah.
Like it's
Chat it up.
you and the devil, one on each side.
We won't say who's who.
Yeah,
We won't say
I
who's
was
who.
actually going to say, I think we all know which is which, but anyway, all right.
We have a whole podcast episode about discernment, which you can go back and listen to at any time.
Which for one of our, for what it's worth is actually, I would say our second most popular episode under, actually it might have less views on YouTube, but the podcast episode itself has more downloads than, that actually might be because that's the voice changer one.
So good.
All right. Anyways, we're getting off track already. We literally haven't even started the conversation yet. All right.
We're back.
We're back. Strong opinions about how to discern relationships, how to discern vocation in this group. I know that, you know that, we all know that. We're going to get that out of the way. If men feel called to marriage, what should they do?
Go on dates. Ask women out. Go on dates.
Next question.
Next one.
Really?
No.
There's no discussion to be had about this at all. Why do you think men aren't doing that? Like, what are some of the reasons that men don't do that? Even though they're like, yeah, I want to be a dad, I want to be a husband, but like, you know, I've heard guys say before, like, I just don't feel like I'm in a place in my life to be actively discerning that. What does that mean for the women in our viewership?
I think one thing to keep in mind, kind of as we're thinking about this topic is, we men are not sort of uniform in our history in terms of past relationships and experience and wounds and joys and everything. So it's tough to have it's tough to have like
One count.
an answer for that specifically.
Oh, shoot.
But I think some guys, are ready to date and some guys aren't, and that can change depending on a lot of factors in life. So I don't know if there's a clear-cut answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to vary, right? So my initial thing of just jumping right in and saying that that's based on very different past experiences than what other people might have. So I don't know, and I think that's probably also something that this episode will be different from previous episodes that we have, because I don't know if it's just the men in this group or if it tends to be a male trait, but we like to kind of talk about things just in broad strokes and like kind of removed from the situation itself. And this isn't, I mean, I'll find myself still like talking about, well, this is what men should do. But I feel like this conversation happens best if we share what we're comfortable sharing, of course, but a little bit more than just this bird's eye, like I'm not involved in the situation kind of view with just theoretical framework.
So it sounds like what you guys are telling me is men are completely inconsistent and unpredictable.
Almost as if we're human beings. Almost.
Well, okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. So I mean, I guess I kind of asked this already, but are there any like specific reasons that men might actively decide not to pursue relationships? Not necessarily with like a specific woman or like with, a specific person, but just in general. Like, are there, seasons of life perhaps that men find themselves kind of thinking like, I'm not interested in dating right now?
I can take this if you want.
Yeah.
I'm going through something like that myself. So I can't really speak, again, like John said, or like Marty said, for all men. And I feel like this is going to be a theme throughout the night where each one of us will probably pipe up with some personally shaded experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I was in a place a year ago where I was super open to dating, but I may not have been thinking long-term the way I should have been. And so those dates really didn't go anywhere because I guess I was dating just to have something to do for fun. And I went on a lot of first dates and kind of burnt myself out doing that, for better or worse. But at the turn of sort of the season here last fall, I got real busy with work, and that became the new time, the thing that took up all my time. And as a result, then on top of that, Exodus 90, Lent kind of took me out of the dating scene purposefully. I was doing that on purpose. And then now work again, and the quarantine and the curfew and all that we just recently went through, it's prevented me really from doing any kind of thing about dating in the now. So it's a season of life, if you will, that was bound to happen. And I was bound to get burned out just kind of going on one-off first dates with people that I maybe met online or something like that. And I guess depending on where every guy is at, some guys are late bloomers. Some guys just love to go on dates. Some guys really have a hard time asking someone out. So I don't know. It's a pretty mixed bag. I'm curious what the other guys have to say, but personally, I don't have any trouble asking people. In fact, it's pretty fun. I love getting to know someone, a girl on a date. But it's very rare that I will. It's very, very rare that I will go much deeper than that, at least these days. And I keep my finger on exactly why, but it could just, here's something that might get talked about later tonight is sort of the death by a million choices kind of thing. That's what I've experienced. And I know there are a lot of fantastic women out there, and I kind of want to meet them all, which is almost a self-defeating
Sure.
strategy. So,
Yeah.
so that's kind of been my MO in the last couple of years, as a matter of fact. And whenever something didn't work out with a serious girlfriend, I kind of took several months off, and then I would throw myself back in for several months and like, boom, boom, boom. Let's meet everybody in the community. Let's meet everybody in my area. And then I'd get burnt out from that. And I'm not an expert on dating because of that, but I have been on a lot of dates. And now I'm just kind of tired of it. Now I'm just kind of like, okay, this has got to be really big for me to really.
Well, I guess I wonder if that does kind of play in, because, you know, when we talked about discernment in our episode on vocations, and Kevin obviously is a huge proponent of discernment in action, like do things. Don't just sit on your butt waiting for something to happen to you. Make it happen. I love the emoji reactions, Kevin. Keep them coming.
On point.
So, but maybe you have to find your own personality. Like maybe, like Eric said, if you just doing things ends up turning into basically looking at a smorgasbord of potential options, and then you don't actually treat any single option with the respect that maybe it deserves. I don't know. Maybe that's something where, because I would say the majority of men probably, and I'm in this bucket as well, are a little bit too reserved and cautious in pursuing women. And so I basically don't date unless I'm pretty certain it's has potential. Which is, I mean, obviously it's a good thing. You don't want to just, you know, pursue a woman just for the sake of it. Just almost treating it like a game. But maybe I'm a little bit too reserved, and like I'm kind of waiting for somebody that's, you know, just checks all the boxes, as opposed to using dating as that. Because most of I would say all of my girlfriends have been friends first, which I really like that approach because it allows me to get to know someone. However, the, you know, seeing dating as a way to get to know someone is also a very viable option. So, yeah, I think there's probably a middle ground there that can and should be found.
I think that's great, John. I mean, it sounds like you've been very intentional with that process, and I think that's really great because, at least from what I've heard I've heard women express before that the lack of intentionality, or like it's really hard to get a gauge on what is this relationship, or like what is this time we're spending together, like where is this going somewhere, like that can be frustrating. And I know Mary Kate, you could probably speak more to that, but I've heard that before, and it's like, yeah, so it sounds like that intention is something that's like really good, and it gives the relationship, it gives that dating like some really good direction.
I mean, well, I guess before I sort of share my thoughts on that, I was having a conversation with my little sister a little while ago. We were talking about what makes somebody good at dating, right? And like it's kind of interesting. Like, so if you've dated a lot, does that make you good, or if you meet somebody relatively early in life, does that make you good at dating? I don't know. So, Mike, for me,
No.
so like
The answer is no.
So like I dated like a lot throughout my 20s, and you know I'm still not married. And then my little sister, you know, the first guy that asked her on a date, she ended up marrying. So like who's better at dating, like me or her, right? So I just thought that was kind of funny. But no, I think you guys make a good point. I feel like I've gone through a lot of seasons in my life, particularly like when I was in college and like right out of college. John, I felt like I was a lot like you. Like I didn't really date at all in college. I mean, I had friends that were girls that we would hang out in groups and so on, but like I was never intentional about it. And I was sort of, you know, had a lot of like boxes to check and like kind of unsure if I wanted to pull the trigger. And honestly, I think that was to my detriment. I think there was a lot of good experiences I could have had in college and learned a lot about myself and a lot about other people. But I was just like very overly cautious. And then I feel like as I got, into my mid 20s and a little later in my 20s, I feel like I kind of went the route you were describing, Eric, where I was like, well, I'm just gonna go out and date as many people as possible, and hopefully something sticks without a lot of intentionality. So I feel like I understand where both of you guys are coming from, but I feel like as I've kind of gone through those seasons of life, one of the things I've learned is that dating is like, it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
I think that's something that people forget a lot of times, is like, you eventually you're going to meet your spouse out of this, right? You're going to meet your wife or your husband, and that's going to be great. But like, even the people you meet in the meantime, for, maybe it's 1 or 2 dates or 3 dates, or maybe you date for a month or 2 months or however long. But like, it's not supposed to be like, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a good time. You're supposed to enjoy this. You're supposed to learn a lot. So I don't know. That's just one of the things that I've kind of learned later in life. So I don't know if anybody else can relate.
I have sort of a follow-up question to that. So I think, you guys have all kind of expressed this idea of like caution. And I think that a lot of women have experiences with men that they walk away and they're like, that guy was just afraid to commit. And so we hear that a lot with men, like this fear of commitment thing. And like, like, I don't know. I feel like the two phrases you hear all the time with regards to men and dating is like fear of commitment and like emotional, like unavailability, like being emotionally unavailable.
Dang.
So yeah, I know we just like get right to it here, don't we? So I'm just curious, like, I guess with regards to the commitment thing, and, like within the context of everything you guys just said, do you think that there's any level in some of these phases of life that perhaps there's just like a fear of commitment? Or like, Eric, you had mentioned like the whole, kind of wanting to meet everybody thing. Is it like this fear of like making a choice? Since actually you said it, you said, let's like, hopefully we go there. So what are your thoughts about that?
Death by a million choices or something like that. Yeah,
totally.
On the one hand, it's really exciting to be in that spot where I don't know, it's like you imagine you finally, like you got a bunch of money for your birthday, not to make this about like commodifying women or anything like that. I'm not trying to say that, but imagine that you got like $100 for your birthday. Okay. And you can go to any store you want. And in every store, there's a lot of desirable things to buy, but you can only spend that money once. And that's, in a sense, how I feel about dating, because I know that's maybe not the best analogy. I'm sorry, ladies.
Go to Benny's Beverage Depot and you're fine.
I'm trying to come up with a way that makes it simple to explain, especially if women are curious. I don't know, at least about how I look at it. But it used to be really fun. In my 20s, it was exciting. Like Marty was talking about, I never dated anybody in high school or college. And then I went to law school and I didn't really have time to seriously date until afterwards. And when I finally got out of there, I had so much FOMO. I was 28 before I seriously dated someone. So I was like, oh my goodness, like this has to happen. Just find someone. It's how hard could it be, And I found someone really nice, but for a couple different reasons, it was not the right match. And then after that, then it was like, okay, there's nothing to be scared of. You've survived. Now you've had you've had a girlfriend, you know what it is. Now don't get involved with someone and break their heart again. Just don't do it, And so there was a fear. There were two competing things. There was one, validation is really great, especially to someone who hasn't gone on a date in 28 years. Okay. So that feels great because now all of a sudden you feel like, oh, I'm a grown up, I'm desirable. I'm whatever. So that's a very addicting feeling. And the more, let's say, online matches you get, if you're doing online dating, which is what I did when I was 28, you get this hit, this dopamine kind of hit of like acceptance. And it makes you say, okay, I'll go out with this person. I mean, on paper, are we going to match with everything? Probably not. But hey, I could use another date, What's another drink with another person who's attractive and thinks I might be it for them? So I don't know. And
$10 is what it is. $10 per drink. So it's a little pricey.
It was more like 10 cents because I went on a lot of these, but it was.
That's how we got married. Sorry.
So to make a long story short, that was the validation thing. And then there was also, what was the other thing I wanted to talk about? Well, I only had a limited amount. I didn't want to break anybody's heart the way I did to the women that I'd actually committed to. And so all that I knew of commitment was, oh my gosh, I didn't know what I was doing when I got involved. And as you learn about yourself, like Marty said, you learn about yourself a lot if you're new to dating. And when I was new to dating, I quickly learned a lot of things I didn't like about myself. And I thought I was great. But then these girls who were truly great made me realize all my shortcomings. And it was very humbling. And I very quickly in both of these relationships realized I don't deserve how good these women are to me because I'm not ready for them. I'm not ready for it. And I knew that about me.
This is the content I'm here for.
Also, I'm not the right person for either of these people. I have to end this before it gets worse. And it's going to hurt now. But if I wait another month or if I wait another several months, it's going to hurt that many times more. So as soon as I realized that, I tried to get that out. And even then, ladies, I'm sure you've been in situations where a guy has surprised you and ended things and you didn't know why. I've been that guy and I've felt horrible for it. And that's why I don't like getting involved now. But this is a me thing. John and Kevin and Dan and Marty might have completely different.
Oh no.
Oh no, he was in such a good spot.
Wow.
Eric, oh no.
Kevin and I are doing the same thing. We're trying to
I guess I'll build on to what he said.
Who's gonna take a picture of this and post it?
Yeah. I'll build on to what Eric's saying though, because I totally understand where he's coming from. I feel like, as I've kind of gone through seasons of life, it's sort of fallen into two camps. Like earlier in life, it was a lot about, I'm kind of scared to ask this girl out because I don't feel like I'm good enough. I might get rejected. There's a fear of rejection. But then sort of as I got older, and I think Eric probably, he mentioned that earlier as well, and you get a little more comfortable with dating, you sort of there's another fear that builds. It's like, okay, there's this, if I get into a relationship with somebody really great, what if it doesn't work out, and, am I going to hurt this person? Am I going to be hurt? And so there's a fear of getting why is everybody snickering?
Not at you. Keep going. I'm sorry, Marty. Keep going. Welcome to my life. Welcome to my life. Keep going, Marty.
Sorry.
You're killing it.
So there's a fear of how invested do I want to get with this? Particularly if you've been through a couple of relationships, how invested do I want to get knowing that there's a potential for a really big heartbreak? So I'm not saying that fear is logical or even useful. Certainly not, if you're hoping to get married someday, but it can be a real fear. So, I've been in that boat before too, the same as, Eric and Kevin mentioned, where you kind of, things have been going along and maybe, I've had some reservations and then maybe just kind of ended things, without a lot of exposition. So
sure.
I can echo that.
Eric's coming back. He's trying to come back.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wonder. Well, now I lost what I was going to say because I'm just waiting for Nyberg to come back. Sorry, Nyberg.
There we go.
You probably said the same thing you would have said. But what were you finishing up there, Eric?
Oh, sorry, guys.
No worries.
Can you see me and hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I was rambling, but everybody's growing through dating a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. And some are really late bloomers like me, but then they take a long time to get over that initial stage of being really excited about dating and then taking it seriously finally. I think that I'm finally taking it seriously to the point where I'm willing to just be single and be kind of semi off the dating scene until something really grabs me. And until then, I think it's very healthy, at least speaking for myself, to get to know people in social settings, not pair off with someone right away, and then it, like I did with my previous relationships. Whereas it's I want to make sure that whoever I end up with gets along with me, who I really am, and they're not going to figure out who I am, and I'm not going to figure out who she is until we spend a lot of time with different people in social settings, doing things through YAM or through like private get-togethers with groups of friends. I think in the end, that's way more healthy even than dating someone that you then introduce to your friends after like a month or two.
Yep.
That's my take right now, but I'll let everybody else talk now.
So my thinking is that the advice is going to be to like kind of extreme for the two different groups of men, right? So like for the one group of men who kind of see dating as like just this activity to do and they don't put a lot of thought in it. You try to like stress the intentionality of it, like know what you're getting both yourself and her into, and really like pray about it, be intentional about what you're doing. And then to the group of men that don't, it's going to be the exact opposite advice. It's going to be like, okay, so what do you really need in a spouse? You need someone that you get along with, somebody that shares we're all Catholics, so someone that shares your Catholic faith and would raise the children Catholic, and some level of physical attraction. Like that's it. So it's this weird dichotomy in these two groups that on one side you want to tell them be more discriminatory about who you go out with, and on the other side you want to say be less. So I just think it's gonna vary depending on the person, but I think it's a good thing to tell yourself if you know which camp you're in, and I think that's the advice.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So I think for me, I don't know who said it before about like dating friends. Like I became friends with them first, and then I dated. And there was only one relationship where that didn't happen. We kind of just started off as dating, and that was the one that I was the one who broke it off. It just like I think I got caught in my head that there's like this the right way to do it or the natural way to do it. And so this is why despite having several friends who have met their significant others and married them online, I've always had issues with online dating, and just even like the Catholic speed dating that we have here at St. Al's. Like it's good, it's fun, but there's something that for me just felt somewhat unnatural. Because it was like I've never formed another relationship like that in my entire life, where I just like went around and like auditioned girls like, well, are you like, could I see myself being friendly with you? And it was very strange. And please not hear what I'm not saying. Like I know plenty of people who have met girlfriends, wives, husbands that way, and there's no wrong way. I just like, it's for me personally.
I hear what you're
like,
saying. Those marriages are illegitimate. That's what you're saying.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Hot take number 2.
Grounds for annulment, I believe. So it's like I'm very. I'm very.
We just really take things 0 to 60, don't we? All right, keep going. Sorry.
You're the one who did it. I'm just continuing.
I know.
The
You're right.
up.
Yeah, you're right. Kev, you're right.
No, so it's very like the natural thing, and that extends into like a lot of areas of my life. So like we're getting like on the kind of the personal level. So for me, like I had a girlfriend in high school, and then we broke up before senior year, and it just felt it was like there was part of me that's like, well, this is good. Now I can like, be my own guy and like do what I want. And that continued into college. And it was basically like I didn't even go to like the step of like dating. It was just flirting with a ton of girls at the Newman Center, and I was really good at it. And but it was very wrong, and like it was very unfair to all those women for me to do that. But there was, I don't know necessarily it was necessarily a fear of commitment to one person. It was a fear of just the idea of not being in control of my own time. Because one of my roommates was dating, and I perceived him to be miserable. And I've talked to him since. He's married now to someone else, and he kind of was miserable. So I was kind of right about that one. But I saw that, I'm like, you just don't seem like, so he like validated me by dating and having a bad time in college. And I'm like, I'm free to do my own thing. And so like, it really like my experiences like reinforce all the different things that I saw and kind of like set me in my own ways. And I think that made it difficult once I got out into the world. That's like, you're out of college, it's a lot harder to find, to kind of like have your, you know, your pick, where it's just like you're around people all the time, and like you can let those relationships naturally grow. And so then I was like completely unprepared for dating in the quote unquote real world. So.
Wow. This is good.
Yeah.
This is good stuff, you guys. So, all right, here's one of the next questions. If a guy is interested, I'm really trying to stop calling you guys boys, because I do that a lot, and that's like totally inconsistent with what
We're
I
leaving
think
boyhood
needs to
behind.
happen.
Mary.
I know.
left it behind.
We're
yet.
leaving boyhood behind.
We haven't yet, though.
I'm really
book,
making it. I'm really trying to
boy.
make it a point to refer to you as men. So if
I'm a boy.
a man is interested in a woman, will he pursue her? You know, like, will he be direct? How perceptive are men to women?
It depends on the guy.
It very much depends on the guy.
I personally I'm bad at pursuing. I like a lot of thoughts going in my head. It's a lot of like, well, I don't want to, especially I get caught in this. I got caught in this thing. To be clear, I don't date anymore. I'm in seminary, so this is all very much in the past. But it was I'm dating the church.
The best girl.
So it was like, I wanted to date someone who I was like, I had a previous relationship with in terms of friendship, but I also didn't want to ruin the relationship by dating and it falling out. And so you can see the predicament there of, well, I don't like this girl is great, but I don't like, we have a good thing. I don't want to ruin that by dating and that falling apart. So again, real problem there for me. That's why I'm
I remember in college that was something where it's like it's very easy to kind of remain in that just kind of like happy, like very carefree friendship status, to where like when things become like when there's like a commitment involved, or when there's like a seriousness involved, like sometimes it kind of takes the fun out of the relationship.
Is that the most man statement of all time?
I mean, it's just like,
stop giving your 2 cents, Mary Kate.
Sorry.
Yeah, whatever happened to that?
Sorry.
No, but so like, well, like, and it's
right.
like, but like, it's.
I didn't promise I wouldn't make jokes. Yeah.
Well, so like one of the things I think that like, and okay, maybe I'm speaking from personal experience, but I would hope maybe it's true for a lot of men. It's just like in the pursuit and like the winning over is fun, and it's like, I don't know, and like it's engaging. But then like once you've done that, I think it's kind of like, okay, like I've got her. We're in some kind of like commitment, even if it's like in a dating relationship. It's like, well, like now what? Like, what do I have to do now? Like, where's this going? And like, there's kind of like sorry, go ahead.
Now the nagging starts.
Oh boy.
Well, it's like
Eric.
That was low hanging fruit. I had to pick that.
Sure.
Now the
I'm only
nagging
joking.
starts.
I think the commitment aspect is where the true selflessness of the man really comes forth. And like, if he has the maturity to be selfless, like, are you going to put aside other things that used to take priority? Are you willing to put those aside for the sake of investment in this relationship? And so like, because it requires something of you, like commitment requires something of you. And like, that's a good thing. And like, that's beautiful, but it does require something of you. It's kind of like a sort of suffering in some ways. Of just like, you are now like important enough to me. We may not be like engaged or anything, but like, you're important enough to me to where like, you are now like moving closer towards like the center of my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Let me a bit of the other side of the coin here, because I think there are those guys where that is the problem. And I've fallen into that camp at, seasons of my life where like, the commitment aspect is a fearful thing. But then there's the other side of the coin where like a man may pursue a girl and get her, and then this girl becomes like his entire life. And this like idol almost. And that I feel like can be almost as dangerous. So just don't.
Can I ask a follow-up question there?
Sure.
Well, maybe a little bit with regards to what Dan was saying. Shoot, what was Dan saying?
talking about
the heck?
commitment.
What the heck was the question I was going to ask?
Well,
oh, you know what? Okay, so here's my question. Do you think that getting to that point, you guys tell me what you think of this. My thought has always been that men will, that moment in the relationship kind of separates the men from the boys in the sense that like a guy's either serious about the girl he's dating or not. And if he's like really serious about her, then that process is a lot easier to enter into than, what do you think about that? Is that real or no? Do you think like no matter who it is, there's some level of like, you have to like willfully choose that and it might be a little bit difficult, but you have to like make that choice. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's spot on. Like going through college and high school, lives are easy and we all can basically do whatever we want, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's really no pressure on me to change anything about who I am and what I do that's not internal. Like some people have that drive, some people don't. But then some of the guys have alluded to this regarding like dating women and women kind of making them realize, wow, I have to be better. I have to do better. I think that's the first time that happens for a lot of guys is when they're dating a good woman is when they that's the first time they realize, wow, I have to shape up. I got to do better. So I think no matter the couple could be perfect for each other, but that's something that is going to happen in any relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I also think, Dan, sorry, Mary Kate, if I could just jump in.
Yep.
What you said is, does every guy have that moment? I think so. I think it's, well, then again, maybe I'm projecting. I think that every guy has a hard time giving up the things that he's used to having in his life for the sake of something bigger or something new or something potentially better, like a great relationship with a great woman.
Yeah.
For 28 years, my MO was just looking out for this guy. And whenever I had a little bit of free time, I really enjoyed my creature comforts and my habits, my alone time, the things I could say without offending anybody, because all my buddies always knew that I didn't really mean anything by it. All of a sudden, I got a new buddy, but it's the girl. And now she gets real pissed.
Buddy.
So
every girl aspires to be a man's buddy. So
as long as she's not a derp, right, Mary Kate?
As long as he's not a derp.
Or he's not a derp.
Sorry, Eric, keep going.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, a guy wants a girl who will be his buddy.
Yeah, that's fair.
That where it's like, hey, we could talk about everything together. I can talk to you about really important, really deep personal things that might be hard for me to talk about. That's the kind of woman I want to end up with, right, at the end. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I didn't mean that lightly. It would be great if it was a buddy in that sense, with everything else added on. But I mean, if I feel that I can't, or let's say past me in the last couple of years, felt that I couldn't say that and couldn't be that way fully with someone, it meant this is not something I'm going to continue pursuing. And unfortunately, that's how, I felt with some serious relationships. Yeah. But I think that every guy, like you said, comes to that point. And I don't think every guy is going to be super serious at the beginning, unless they're very, very new to dating. There might be some instances of guys who marry the first girl that they ever dated, and they were really serious about her. It was first love, high school sweethearts kind of thing. And he's never dated anyone else. He never will again. And God bless him. That's fantastic. But I think the majority of people will have a few failed relationships, maybe in high school, college.
Yeah.
And then, it'll be harder for them to be so almost naively serious at the beginning. And then, I think the more times you've been on dates with more people, kind of the less seriously you tend to take it, the less what's the word, earnestly you might pursue at the very beginning. You might earnestly pursue someone after date 3 or after date 5, but certainly for me, at least, never on a first date. I never take a first date very seriously at all. It's a date. I'm getting to know this person, and I'm going to get to know, probably after her, a lot of other people on first dates. That's just kind of how I feel. Because to me, every time I have taken a first date very seriously, it's blown up in my face and been a massive letdown. So
along those lines, Eric, there was a question in the chat that I think is a good question. As Catholic men, should Catholic men seriously date at all if marriage is not the intention?
I think. Go ahead.
Well, he just kind of followed. So Derek just kind of followed up, and he said, if you say yes, we run the risk of putting too much pressure on ourselves. But if you say no, then we turn the risk of treating women and their emotions too casually. So what's your take on that?
So what other intentions are there? Like, so, if you're dating to learn how to be a good husband, are you dating to just get some sort of physical gratification? Like, in my opinion, you shouldn't be dating. Possibility. I don't know.
Can you repeat yourself, Marty? I kind of missed the tail end of that.
No, so I don't think you should date unless you're in a position where your marriage could potentially be a possibility in your life.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't really see the answer of saying that if we say yes, that should be the only intention. I don't think that necessarily means we're putting too much pressure on dating. I think the answer to the question is yes. That should be the intention of dating, but I don't know, just be realistic. Like, it's first date. It's not a marriage proposal.
It's not?
Let's make this last forever.
I'm just kidding.
I think it's more getting. Oh, you.
Casual and have not, this person you're on a first or second date with is probably not your spouse. You can still do that with intentionality, I think.
Yeah.
So
you're not going to know, right? Before the first date. So it's just logically, it's a step you have to take.
Right. So is it important for the man to be the pursuer? I know there's a question in the chat about women asking men out. Again, I'm just going to comment that this is not my show. It's yours. So, but you all know how I feel about this.
This is the one who created the podcast. Okay. So I think men will tend to be the one to initiate those relationships, but I don't think it's this absolute where, like, if a woman asks a guy out on a date, it's like, oh, this is all wrong. This is terrible. Like, this relationship is doomed or anything like that. So, yeah, I mean, just like in the conversations that we probably, I don't know actually how much we've talked about in the podcast, but it's like, what do you like the tendencies for like men and women, like I think, yeah, like I said, so like I think you're far more likely to see men asking women out on dates. But yeah, I don't think that has to be an absolute.
I kind of agree with that. I think it is the normal and just far more likely thing to happen. I think just by nature of men and women. And I think that's a good thing for it to generally be that way. But it's, as Dan said, it's not an absolute. It's not like if a woman came and asked me out, it's not like just based on that alone, I'm going to turn her down.
Yeah. So I think with some men, like the question may be if they're wondering if they could ask a girl on a date. It's like, so, like Mary Kate, you'll sometimes say like, so women will often ask the question, am I enough? And like, I think there are a lot of men who ask that question too. Like, am I enough? Like, am I a good enough man for this woman? Am I a good enough person for this woman? And so if a man's confidence is severely lacking and the woman is like, oh my gosh, no, like this relationship should happen. Like, I really want to date you. Then that, I don't think that should be something that just because it's like, well, the man has to ask the date. Like, I don't think that should prevent her from doing so.
I think the only caveat to that is I agree with you guys. I think pretty quickly, if it's something that's going to continue, it should become the guy who's the initiator relatively soon after that initial first date. Like it shouldn't be the girl dragging the guy along, like, oh, I'm trying to get you to like me, that kind of thing. It should pretty quickly turn.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys, in your experience, do you think that men pick up on women's like subtle hints or that's funny, on like hints or nudges, or do you think like how can women show their interest?
Ask a guy on a date. I'm sorry. Like
that's how subtle you can be.
I fight back against
get the message across.
And I was doing this tonight at dinner. Dan can tell you, like social norms for me, I reject almost all of them. I think they're stupid and they're based on nothing.
Like clothes.
Hats inside. Like I do that all the time.
Hot take 3 or 4. Social norms are garbage.
Social norm. Counting hot takes is a social norm. We shouldn't do it. There we go. Boom. There's a hot take for you. Okay. I would every time if a woman approached me, that would be like such a like, yes, absolutely. That's like there's no guessing. There's no like, well, maybe that is a boom. Yes. And now that's never happened. So I'd have no idea. Like, I don't know what that feels like of being asked on a date. I have no idea, but I'd imagine it'd be like, oh, wow, that's pretty validating. And yeah, I didn't have to play some sort of guessing game. And now I've personally always been attracted to people who since I am in social situations, not with people that I know, very shy and very quiet. And so I do not put myself out there at all in around people who I don't know. And so I've always been attracted to the Forest Seminary, I guess even now, but you know what I mean, is women who are very outgoing, very social, very like a little more like just like they're just going to tell you what's up, and I don't have to guess at anything. That's what I want. I know other guys do not want that, or that's not something they're going for. So, but yeah, I think I might be alone there, but I would have like if there's these little subtle hints and the guy's not picking up on them, then be direct, say something. I know that maybe that's not easy to hear, or that's not easy for a girl to do, but that's my opinion on it.
So,
I don't know, you guys.
So you're probably you're asking for some practical things, right, Mary Kate? Like, I don't know about practical things to like get a guy to like notice a girl, but like I know some things that could definitely keep a guy from asking a girl out. Like, well, okay, so I'm not gonna get.
No, it's okay. Let's do it.
I'm just thinking like, okay, let's say you're at like a party, right? And I've been at parties before where like I'll see a girl, or maybe I know a girl or something, I want to ask her out, but like she is just there with like 5 girls surrounding her and is like huddled in this group. So something you have to remember is it's pretty terrifying as a man. Some guys that have no fear of this, but most guys are afraid. Most guys are kind of afraid.
That's why you're here, Eric.
It's like most guys are afraid of rejection.
My wedding date.
So like the fear of going up and talking to one girl to talk to her and get to know her and ask her out, if it has to be then multiplied by 5 because she never leaves this little tight group, and meaning you have to like not only talk to her, but you have to talk to 5 of her friends, and then you have to get this other girl aside, but also not offending the other girls is can be kind of daunting. So I don't know what the solution to that is. But I've heard a lot of guys who've had that experience.
On the other hand, though, it's got to be scary for a girl if she's not with some people she knows at a party.
Sure.
And then she feels like she's, getting checked out, by every guy in the room, and they're taking turns, making passes to try to awkwardly talk to her. I don't blame a girl for coming with her friends and staying with her friends for a little while. I think it would be a good idea to come to a party with your 3 or 4 girlfriends, but then agree that, I'm sure women do this anyway. You don't even have to agree about it. I mean, guys go to parties trying to meet girls. Girls go to parties trying to meet guys. They're probably going to be happy for each other if they, kind of mingle and disperse for a little while. But I agree with Marty that it is, I was kind of joking when I did this. It is intimidating when you have your eye on someone and she's got 3 or 4 other girls sort of.
Yeah.
perimeter around her. You know, you,
Well,
you
I
don't,
mean,
you don't know them. That's even.
yeah. And that's probably the, I guess, practical advice from it is if you want a guy to be more willing to approach, like what if you're not interested in meeting a guy at that party, by all means, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But if that's part of your reason for going out to the party, then yeah, maybe give yourself some space and some space for the guy to.
I mean,
approach you.
2 or 3 is better than like 6.
Where 2 or 3 are gathered, Eric Nyberg is among them.
Oh!
Amen, amen. I say unto you.
Oh, geez.
That's the thing though, like we men have to remember as well, is like, if we're gonna go and like try to take a girl aside or get to know her a little better, we can't be like going from girl to girl to girl to girl to girl at the party. Also,
Right.
like which one's gonna stick? Because
That's what we call a big yikes.
that's not
So,
good.
Big yikes.
big yikes.
Yeah. So one thing that I guess I've still noticed, even like among young adults at parties, is like when there's some like legitimate flirting going on or some legitimate interest shown between like a guy and a girl, the friends around them will be very weird about it, or just kind of be like, oh, or like just kind of make it obvious, or like almost try to get the attention of one of them, being kind of like, you definitely like her, or you definitely like him. And it's like, would you just let this play out? Holy cow, man. This is great
It's
to
high school
see.
drama.
Just let it happen. And I think some of that has to do with like those people's own insecurity. Hot take, big hot take right there.
Yeah.
But like seriously, just let it play out. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful. Oh God, it's beautiful.
It can be.
Let it happen.
But either way, it's entertaining to watch.
There's a good skill to hone as a good friend of learning how to melt into the background and fade away without being obvious.
We call it Cullen Baldwining is what we call it.
But you find out
Oh my
he's been home
gosh.
for 3 hours.
Exactly. He's married and has a kid on the way, so we can't. None of us can laugh at
Good
it.
at dating, apparently.
No, he did it right. He did a good job. He succeeded.
So,
I think.
nope, Eric, go. This is not my show. Go,
I was
Eric.
just gonna ask. You were saying what are some things that women can do to get maybe guys to realize that they like them? Again, it's going to depend on guys and maybe their experience, or maybe the amount of girls who they know who are friends, who maybe they've learned some things from. Like Marty said, and like Kevin said, we had some girlfriends in college who were friends who told us about probably their guys are so stupid they don't pick up on this, that, and the other thing. And so, you listen to that enough, it seeps in.
Yeah.
So I've learned a couple things, I'd like to think. I also have some sisters, and they share frustrations with me about, guys don't pick up on this, or what do I do, to get guys to ask me out, or whatever. Women friends of mine have asked me that. And I think what I've noticed over the years is when I've really been attracted to someone, it's when they haven't asked me on a date. It hasn't been that outright. And in fact, sometimes that's almost like, beat me to the punch. I don't know how I feel about that. But a lot of times it's when a woman is very, very, very direct in like, hey, what are you drinking? Let me get a drink with you, or something like that. And it's like, wow, I'm impressed by this. I don't know why, but she makes it a point to be very clear that she wants to spend a little time talking to me at this setting, wherever we are. And I try to do that too. If I'm really interested in someone, I'll try to just kind of put myself right there and just say, hey, so, let's just take a half hour here and chat, like, I don't want to say that, but I would say like, hey, let's get a drink together or something. And so then it's pretty obvious, I would say, without being like, hi, I really like you, I think we should be boyfriend and girlfriend. It's like,
you have to say it in that voice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually only date men who ask me out in that voice, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying girls have to be that, about it, but don't be afraid if you like a guy and he doesn't seem to be picking up on it. Don't be afraid to go up to him and just be like, so, hey, how you doing? You want to, go over here and chat for a bit? And just by suggesting to go over here and chat for a bit, I think that'll let the guy know, in as many words. That's worked for me. And you can always, it's very encouraging if you find the girl attractive and she's doing that. it's like, oh, cool. Okay. I know what to do now. If you're not the kind of guy who normally would go out of his way, now you know. I would say that's a big plus. See if
That's
you can get him.
Cool. So any last thoughts about that before we move on to the next question? Look how crooked my finger looks when I do this. It makes me crazy.
No, like
The witch.
I don't know.
Maybe burn her.
I would
That's
say
what's happening.
don't be discouraged if the guy seems oblivious, because I think we all are.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
okay, like girls know that guys are kind of oblivious, right? Like is that pretty common knowledge? Like that's.
oof, it is just the most painful thing on the planet. You really have no idea.
No, but like it's.
Yeah, girls for sure know that men are
It's like
oblivious.
we know, and you all know.
Women spend a lot of time talking about how oblivious men are. I can't tell you how many conversations I've been in with women that it's been like, this guy just will not take a freaking hint.
Yeah, and I can't blame the guy. And I
The hints need to be.
It's just like, oh my goodness gracious.
Sometimes though, you can tell, and you just play dumb because you're not interested in the girl.
Well, okay, see.
That's where you start using the pickup lines, man. Use the Catholic pickup lines.
Can you give us one, Jam, please?
What is it?
Oh, hey, girl, I was reading through the book of Numbers. I didn't see yours in there.
Classic.
What about,
oh gosh.
what about this take on it? And I feel like I've heard this mostly from women, but I think some guys fall into this category as well, where you're just a really friendly person. And people think, I think it's mostly women that do all this, you know, they're just friendly. And people think that you're interested when you're not. Is there any danger there, or is that not, can't be avoided? You know,
I mean,
is that a question for me? Because I would like to ask for permission.
Hence the
to
problem,
speak.
right? Hence the obliviousness of you feel like no matter what, your assumption is wrong. Like she's super into me. Oh no, she's just like a really friendly person. She's a really friendly person. Oh no, she's actually into you, dude. So that's where that's where it's one of the points of like, I just don't know, because like every woman is different. So I don't know how she,
right.
It's like, I don't know. So it's big signs are really good. Like make it obvious to each other. And I shouldn't be giving guys a pass. If guys are really interested in a girl, they should absolutely go up and say like, hey, I'm interested in you. But you know, if guys are sitting there complaining, like, I just don't know, bro. Like, I just don't know. Like, that's the same thing of like girls being like, you know, honey, he's just like so oblivious and I can't even deal with it anymore. It's the same thing.
Oh, please talk in that voice for the rest of
Okay,
the night.
well,
No
first of
problem,
all,
guys, you know.
All right.
Can I share my opinion? I've been really good.
But this isn't your show, Mary Kate.
I know, but that one, because I'm gonna talk to the girls who are watching right now. The whole accidentally friendly, like, oh, I didn't mean to like give off this impression. Like, that's a thing that guys do because guys are oblivious. Women know what they're doing. So like, I would say for a guy, if you see a woman who's friendly to everybody and she's like really like laying it on thick with you, I would proceed with caution, to be honest. Like, that's on her. I think that's an insecurity thing. Like, women need to be more careful about those things. And I think that that's an example of a moment that women do not do the work to. I'm getting texts from women saying yes right now. So this is how you know it's real.
Great.
Women do not do the work to like protect men's hearts in the way that we expect men to protect women's hearts. Ooh. And that is super wrong, in my opinion. I'm very passionate about that. So there's a way that women can be friends with men without giving like off a false interest. And that's an attention seeking thing that I don't appreciate. That's very self-indulgent. I don't like that. So women, you need to be like thinking about the impression you're giving this man when you're behaving this way. And like men, I think it's easy to tell, but you need to be paying attention. So like you need to look, you know, be in groups with other people with this woman. And like, if she's doing the same thing to other guys that she's doing to you, I would be really careful about that. I'm not saying don't proceed there or like, don't pursue her, but like, you know, do yourself a favor and just be careful. So that's my comment about that.
You know, I appreciate that Mary Kate, but I also will say that sometimes it's the guy's fault for projecting. Because let's say,
Maybe.
no, I agree, 100% agree. I think that there's a nuance here in what Marty was saying. Or wait, who was it? I think it was Marty. I can't remember now. Saying that, oh, she's just a really nice person. Okay. Sometimes there is going to be that girl in a group of girls who is definitely the one that everybody's looking at in the room. She's just that girl. It's just the luck of the draw. No disrespect to the other people in the room, but literally everybody's going to look at her when she walks in. Okay. And she's probably very well aware of this. And she's probably grown up being that girl in every room that she's in.
Yes.
And doesn't want to come off as a bitch. So her way of defending against that is to be extra smiley, extra super nice to every guy she talks to, so that they can't say that, oh, she's just really, she's stuck up. She knows how hot she is and she's really stuck up. Okay. I've heard guys talk about certain girls like that when they're really upset that this girl doesn't give them the time of day. Right. But now the other danger there is that a lot of guys now have gotten a smile from this girl, and all these guys, and I've been on the receiving end of this, a lot of these guys start projecting, oh my gosh, wow, this girl is like a knockout, just smile, it took a few minutes to ask me about myself. Wow, she must really like me. I'm going to ask her out. When she might get that from like 5 guys at one party. And then she's like, man, I can't win. If I'm like putting a little, like, guys don't bother me. Now I'm really stuck up. But if I'm really smiling, really happy, all these guys are going to try to take their shot. And it's a downer because I have to turn them all down because I'm not really attracted to most guys, And if she is the hottest girl in the room, she's probably going to have her eye on the hottest guy in the room. So that's just how that works. People don't date down generally, I think. They get across or up.
No, what I would say to kind of Kevin's point, and this is hypocritical because right now I'm talking theoretical and not from personal experience, but when Kevin was like, guys sitting around and they're just saying, oh man, I don't know. Like, I don't know if she likes me or not. There's a really easy way to find out, right? You ask her out. It's easy. But
that's it right there. That's the ticket.
If you're wondering, if you're curious, if you're interested in her and you think she might like you.
Yeah, sorry. I guess in my answer, I kind of was encouraging men to proceed with caution, but I don't actually believe that. I think guys should just ask women out. So sorry, not to like deliver conflicting messages here or anything, but whatever.
Okay. So I guess getting back to maybe one of the original points I was trying to make. So we've talked about like maybe the girl being a little too flirtatious. Is there danger with like men doing that as well? Because men are also, have big egos and like to be the center of attention, blah, 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 blah. Eric's pointing at himself.
Are you asking? Who are you asking?
I'm asking in general. Maybe I'm asking Mary Kate. I don't know.
I just wanted I wanted to be prompted. I needed to be invited into the conversation.
Oh.
Yeah. There are men who have a reputation, I think, for that, which is unfortunate because I think that women kind of get away from that. I don't think men are as likely to stick a label on a woman as women are likely to stick a label on a man. And there are definitely men who get labeled as like, this guy will flirt with you, but he won't pursue you or ask you out on a date. And you will spend the next 6 months feeling like this guy's into you. And every party you go to, he's there and paying attention to you, but he doesn't make a move. And you know what I mean? Like, I think that's a major frustration. And then women talk too. That's the other danger is like women talk. And I'm not condoning this. I think women need to be not so big, I think women need to not have such big mouths with each other about stuff. But like that's the danger is like women talk and women, like I've been in conversations with women that they're talking about the same guy and how he like, one person will be like, oh yeah, so-and-so is like, I just wish she would ask me out. And there's like this moment of like, oh my gosh, she has had the same experience with him. This is interesting. And that's how, you know what I mean? Like, it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. Oh my gosh, you guys, I can't in the chat. So anyway, it's unfortunate. I think women need to be more careful about those things. But like also men have to know that like women talk about that stuff.
But we know.
I know, you know.
I guess like for both genders, maybe this will be like the final point of this. Is there a fine line though between like flirtation and just you generally just want to be friendly? How do we know that? I don't know.
I don't think you can know. I think like, you know, women will do what men do. Well, they'll like project, you know, like they're interested in a guy and he'll be like, you know, paying some like special attention to her or giving the appearance of doing so. And women project and they just think like, well, he must be interested in me because, you know, he's asking me all these questions and he like remembers details about our last conversation and like brings those things up. And it like seems that he treats me differently than other people and, you know, like things like that. And then I think it's like because of those things. And then, well, and then again, you guys, like women talk. So like other women in the room, women leave parties together and like some of the first conversations that happen is like, okay, so-and-so was like for sure laying the groundwork with you tonight. Like things like that. These are like, women are incredibly in tune with these things.
This is not surprising news at all.
I'm sure it's not.
Terrifying.
And like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry.
I mean, if you like, the guys, maybe it's not the first thing they're saying, but like there's conversations like, yo, dude, I saw you, you know, sitting on the couch all night with so-and-so. What's up with that? Okay, sorry, I'm doing like the bro thing. Not all guys are frat guys. Only like
backwards hat kind of guy.
Only like 90% of them. Okay, so
there were like 3 jokes went through my head and all of them made me look bad. So just keep talking, Kevin.
The guy debrief is usually like, hey, I saw you're talking to so-and-so, you know, wink, wink. And then that's about it.
Yeah, pretty much. And like, and maybe it'll be like, you'll like notice it maybe at the next party, like the next, like, oh, like they're back together again. Oh, how about that? And I'll pin them up after this. But you're you are giving them plenty of space. There's no
at that point
coming close to any of that. Yes. All right. Are there any other questions that you want to get to?
Yeah. I mean, we got a lot more questions.
So this isn't a hot take, but I wanted to kind of connect a little bit of this to one of my favorite issues to talk about. I don't know if it's actually a favorite issue, but I talk about it a lot. Is one of the reasons that I think a lot of guys will not ask women out on dates is because, so I was saying earlier how like dating requires something of men and like really yes, I mean so
can I show that? That's a really good meme.
Sure.
Dan, that's a really
good one.
Kevin's
all over this. He knows what I'm gonna say.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
It's not showing up.
No, it's not.
You can't really see
it. We'll put it on the
It's a news. Later. It's like a breaking news thing, and underneath it says "Women Talk."
Women talk.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Kevin Dan, was just going. Like, none of this is news, which was great. So Kevin's all of this. He knows me so well. So I like dating. First of all, relationships in general, like deep, abiding relationships, require something of someone. And I think right now, like with the rampant use of pornography right now among men, they are able to engage in what at least sensually appears like a very intimate encounter, and it requires absolutely nothing of them. Like there is a sacrifice of self. Like you have to put your reputation on the line. You have to put your, you know, like there's a fear of rejection when you're asking a girl out on a date. And for a lot of guys, like, and with the sexualization of relationships in general, it's kind of like, okay, like sex is just going to be kind of part of our relationship. I think a lot of dots are connected in guys' brains, which is kind of like, well, like, I don't really need to date. I don't really need to get married because like all the sexual intimacy that I want to experience, I can just get for free. And I don't want to put that in a vacuum, like that's the answer to all of it, but I think that has something to do with it, and just how I think the rampant use of pornography has something to do with the fact that like it takes a lot of the, I think the energy that, not energy, but
I know what you mean.
Yeah, like
energy word.
Yeah, I mean, like I think it takes a lot of, so I mean, like the women that appear in pornography it's very unrealistic. And again, like there's no relationship with any of those women, and so like men are able to have this kind of like pseudo intimacy that
requires
like,
nothing of them.
Exactly. Okay, so I know I'm repeating myself, but yeah, I think that has something to do with it too, to where it's like, oh yeah, like real women and real relationships, like this is not as good as the pornography I'm consuming. So what's the point?
Yeah, and maybe that's even a subconscious thought as well, or it comes out.
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely
But
subconscious.
it's how, I mean, as Dan will say, it's just how pornography wires you to be.
Yeah.
So it is subconscious, but it's like a learned thing.
You guys, and I guess kind of along those lines, like I would say, speaking from experience on this, like when I hear everything that you all are saying about like women, asking guys out and like, whatever. But I wish that men understood the gravity of a man going out of his way to ask a woman out on the date. And here's the thing, it's almost like it seriously is like roulette. And I get that. It's like, for every 10 women, and I mean, okay, maybe that's a lot. For every 5 women that a guy like really goes out of his way to like ask this girl out because he's interested and he doesn't even really know if she would be like interested in dating him or whatever. But like, there's going to be one who is going to be like so impressed and grateful. And what that translates to in relationships that actually last is like this devotion that I think every man desires. And every woman wants to be devoted to the man that she's in a relationship with in that way. And I don't think, yeah, I'm getting text messages again. This is cool. And so I think that's huge, is like, I wish that men understood that like the risk is high, but like it has the potential to, again, not to like commodify women, but like the risk is so high, but like the result will be so good and so fruitful if men are willing to really go out on the limb, because women see that, recognize it, appreciate it on like a level that nothing else even comes there. Like every woman wants a guy to like pick her out in a crowd and ask her out on a date. That is quite literally what every woman wants. And so like if a guy, so like it's almost ironic that like, on the one hand, you guys are talking about that's the scariest scenario for a woman. That is the best case scenario. And yeah, like, and like, I get it. Like, I get how scary that is, but like, if you land on that, like if guys take that approach and they just decide like, I'm going to take the rejection that might come with this because this is what my approach is going to be, eventually you're going to land on a date with a woman that she is going to be devoted to you and y'all are going to get married, and it is going to be a beautiful union because things were done the way that they should be done. And the man was willing to die on that cross long before he actually had to, with regards to the commitment. Does that make sense what I'm saying? I think that's huge. I honestly think that is huge. Like some of the best dating relationships I've ever been in, it's because the guy like totally went for it. And it's just like immediate respect, instant respect. You don't have to do much more, I think, at that point to gain my respect. That pretty much does it. So anyway, I'm done now. Are you guys all talking in the chat about how I said I wasn't going to talk? Oh no.
This isn't your show, Mary Kate.
We will.
You're right. It's not my show.
Us of that.
Yeah, I like Marty's current setup. Him typing.
So,
All right. Yeah,
right.
so we have next question.
Yeah.
Or
Any thoughts
docket?
about
Follow
that?
up to what Mary Kate just said.
Yeah. Eric, you got a comment?
You guys, for me, again, this is for me. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but for me, I maybe I'm a weirdo in that the ask is never scary, or it's rarely scary.
Interesting.
The only time the ask is scary for me is if I've had a crush on someone for years because they've been taken, and
Yeah.
single, and it's like, oh boy,
Yeah.
how long do I wait to ask this girl out? Or so that doesn't seem like an opportunism thing. The ask is not the scary part. For me, the commitment is the scary part, because the ask is a coffee or a drink or a walk, or that's all the commitment is for that. But it's when you said when a girl is impressed by someone who actually asks, that's terrifying for a guy like me, because then it means, holy cow,
This means something.
this means a lot more than a coffee all of a sudden. This means a lot more than a drink. This is like, okay. Just, okay. I was trying to just get to know you. And so for people who are wired like me, where the ask isn't scary, then we get into another problem. And we get into this area of, okay, let's not think too far in advance, because if this girl's already so devoted to me and Doug barely knows me, now I'm getting a little scared because maybe I got too deep into this. And
So let me clarify. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eric. Can I clarify? Because
Yeah,
I think we're conflating two different emotions in women potentially. So like, there are guys that like, I can think of one instance in particular that I was literally sitting in a group of people and a guy came and sat down next to me and was like, so can I have your number and can I take you out on a date in front of all these people, and everyone heard him. And like, we didn't date for very long, but there was instantaneous respect there. And I was like, how do you like and I mean this in the best way. Like, I don't think a girl can say no to that request, and if she does, well, maybe that's a whole other thing, but like
she might not be attracted to him, which is fair.
Well, yeah, but I also think like that is just so deeply respectable when a man is like willing to put himself out there like that. But I wouldn't necessarily say that means this woman is like, I think you're right. And I think there are certain women who really glom onto things quickly. And that's something that women need to work out in themselves, because that's an insecurity thing. I think that women who are like really confident in their own self-worth and like really well-founded in their own ability to date, or well-rooted, and maybe is the better way to say that, I think that she can really respect a man and separate her respect for him from whether or not they should be in a relationship. And then you're able to do the more casual, like, let's just go like for a walk and get to know each other. And it's not if there's someone who needs, okay, well, yeah, let's yeah. I
think it's weird.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I now I'm seeing what's happening. Hold on.
Sorry, what's happening?
Don't worry about it.
Nothing.
Any other questions, Mary Kate?
Nope.
Got half an hour left.
We
went through them all. Wow.
No, I'm sorry. There are questions. I'm distracted. So yeah, actually there's a couple things I really want to talk about. Let's see. So many women, you guys, like, let's talk a little bit now, like maybe a little bit further into a relationship, like you've been, on a couple dates or whatever. When there are some women who resist setting physical boundaries with men in fear that their standards will be too high and that men will reject them. And, like I had a conversation with somebody not that long ago that we talked about, like, is that real? Like, do men actually reject women for not putting out, essentially? And the answer is like overwhelmingly yes. That is something that happens to women. So where men are fearful of rejection in that first like interaction, women are fearful of rejection in like setting those standards with regards to physical stuff and like having the courage to like say no to things and whatever. So what's your thought on that, if you have one? And like, what would you say to those women who—
Is that a problem in the general sphere or the Catholic sphere? Because if you are getting that from like guys who are practicing Catholics that are asking girls to put out on the third or fourth date, then
I think I think there's potential to underestimate how present this is in the Catholic realm as well.
That's very sad. I mean, I would definitely encourage any girl to put up those boundaries and call the guy higher. And if there's rejection, I mean, like, then you cut that off. Maybe I'm saying that out loud. It sounds like too simplistic of an answer. Maybe it's a more complicated situation, but I mean, it's just like it's kind of shocking to hear that that's a problem in the Catholic dating scene. Like I understand it, like the general the college scene or whatever, like that. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. I wish it wasn't that like that, but I know the world, but it like, yes, like set those boundaries. I would have no problem. I would hope that we were setting the boundaries at the same time. Like if we were dating, like we're like, hey, we're both Catholic and we both, if this is gonna, even if it isn't gonna lead to marriage, like there's no reason, like I don't know what to say because it's like kind of like so like like
So-
kind of shocked that that's like a thing in Catholic.
Yeah, and I'm
Catholic
seeing
world.
in the comments in the chat that guys are surprised. You guys, this is a thing. Like it's 100% a thing in the Catholic community for women to feel this pressure, and also for like there are guys like who are like, you know, will be manipulative. They'll tell women like, and see, you know, it's funny. It looks a little bit different in the Catholic community because men will say things like, "You're being scrupulous," or "Well, we're not doing this," or "We're not doing that." And men. Yeah, this is a thing. And it's a thing that I think Catholic men just do a little bit differently than everybody else. Not to ostracize Catholic men. I know a lot of great men who would not manipulate women in this way, but unfortunately in the Catholic community, it is a thing. Marty, sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I think you make a good point, Mary Kate. I mean, we shouldn't be under any illusions that, you know, everybody in the Catholic community is perfect and all that. But
Right.
I don't know. I feel like for women out there, if you end up meeting a guy who's professing to say one thing and is doing something quite different, that should be your red flag to, you know, I mean, I almost feel like don't even feel that pressure at that point. Like be very clear up front about what your intentions are, where your boundaries are.
Yeah.
Regardless of if you're dating a Catholic guy or a non-Catholic guy or whoever, and that should be early conversation. And don't even feel any fear about that.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done, but
those are also there. This is a situation too where the guy, especially, I think, like he needs to know himself and know just like he cannot put him like, I mean, both of them shouldn't, but like the guy needs to make sure that he's not putting himself or he's not putting her in just a situation to where like things could happen. And just like stay away from those situations where like, oh crap, like there is a huge temptations for those boundaries to be violated,
Mhm.
you know, like those physical boundaries. So like, and like the guy has a responsibility for the girl, like to not lead her into those situations either. So just like stay away from those things. I put in the chat just like, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but just like first time a guy should enter a girl's bedroom or vice versa is like on the wedding night, but like literally just like don't go in there. Like that's just not like you shouldn't go there, you know? So just like don't put yourselves in those kind of situations where it's like, oh crap.
Yep.
I mean, oh darn.
Nice.
Darn.
Did one of you swear earlier?
I think I did. I think I said the word.
Eric said
out later. Don't worry.
It's
I
not
said
the end of the world.
I'm gonna
I'm sorry.
mute
This is
myself.
family-
There are a lot of children who listen to this podcast, so we've let them
Family
all
friendly
down.
show. Family friendly
Mea
show.
culpa.
Family
Yeah.
friendly show. So, can you guys share like that word, which I personally also use this word a lot. So
The word
I'm
Eric
not,
said earlier.
The B
No,
word.
Marty.
The
I
swear
don't-
word.
Marty
no,
did
the
that.
Marty word. It's Marty's
course.
word.
It's-
According,
Wounds.
what is it?
well,
Wounds.
wounds.
Oh.
Wounds.
So men and women, this is something I feel pretty strongly about. And it's one of the things that like one of the personal struggles I have with dating that I like really feel a resistance and a fear about dating with regards to this because of this is that I think men and women do a lot of like wounding each other in dating. And so I guess I'm curious if you guys have any insights on like, how can we avoid that? How can we avoid like, you know, as men, how can you guys avoid wounding women? And as men, tell us how women can really like do the work to avoid unnecessarily wounding you or like, you know, like taking you for granted, which I think women do a lot in dating.
So I just want to point out, I'm glad you said that, like unnecessarily wounding, because I feel like those are the kind of wounds we're talking about when we have these conversations. Because when you're dating somebody, there should be a level of vulnerability there. And I mean, it is pretty likely that unless the relationship ends in marriage, there's going to be some level of hurt there. So unnecessarily wounding, I like that kind of phrasing better. I'll have to give a spot. I don't know if you guys have some immediate thoughts, but I'll think about it for a little minute.
I think as a dude, especially as a guy who might in the past have asked people out quite casually and impulsively, and I guess in my defense, relatively innocently, just as a getting to know you. There may have been a lot of, I don't know. There may have been a lot of times where people could have been led on or could have been hurt in spite of my best efforts. So that's one thing that guys, especially maybe guys who have no problem asking people out, ought to practice caution towards women out of respect and out of consideration. So that's something that I'm taking to heart, hearing you say that now. Tried to, but as far as women, what can women do to not wound men? I don't know. I think generally women tend to be pretty considerate, especially in the Catholic circles. I think most women aren't going to go out of their way to rag on anybody or put a guy down if he's making a good faith effort to ask them out. I guess I'm not much help there, but I know what guys can do.
Amen.
I think there's a couple of things maybe early on, like, in early part of dating. So like ghosting somebody is not great,
There you go.
Yeah, that's a big yikes.
So like if you're a girl, for example, and you go on a date or two and you're not feeling it, you don't like the guy, don't do the, oh yeah, we'll hang out next week. And then, oh, sorry, I'm busy. How about 2 weeks from now? And then the slow ghost, because this goes both ways.
It does.
Be honest. Yeah. Just be honest, just do, if you're not feeling it, say, hey, we had a night, it was a fine time, but I'm looking at other people. Hope I see you around at other young adult stuff. And I feel like if people are honest like that, even if it's the first, second, or third date, I think that can go a long way. So, but I think people are scared to do that. So, and it goes both ways with guys and girls. Like, oh, I'm not sure, maybe, and then
Well, and like the thing, like I think the thing is there are just some instances, like one of you mentioned earlier, that sometimes it's unavoidable that the other person is going to be taken off, like it's going to be caught off guard by being broken up with. I know I've experienced that. And I think that, on the flip side of that coin, sometimes that's the more compassionate thing to do as opposed to like dragging it on. And in the moment, it's really hard, but I hope that, if we're all living the way we should be living and like discerning all these things very prayerfully as we should, I would hope that eventually the other person would come to understand that this is just kind of some of the tough aspects of dating, that like we don't mean to wound each other, and I think it happens.
I would sing them a Taylor Swift song, "We Are Never
Classic.
Getting Back Together."
Gosh.
I support that.
I knew you were trouble when you walked in.
That's right.
Dan, why you gotta be so mean?
I think one of the things to keep in mind is like, as you're going through a dating relationship, you should be dating in a way to where even if you date for a year or 2 years or something, or engaged and it broke off, that person would still, maybe it's even years down the line, would still be able to recommend you as somebody who is a trustworthy person and a good person.
Yep.
And so if you're able to maintain that level of respect, and honesty and charity and chastity throughout the relationship, I think that goes a long way. So.
Yep.
I think I would just say that,
it's not my show.
like probably the biggest thing that I've noticed for, it's kind of along those lines, is early on establishing that like open communication is something that's just going to happen. We're going to talk about these things. So then maybe you don't blindside them. I mean, I know it still happens. If you have to break up with someone, like you can be the best communicator in the world, and then still for them, maybe it seems like it comes out of left field, but provided if you're talking about, like, again, this is presuming you're farther in the relationship, but if you're talking about the relationship as it's progressing, hopefully, yeah, there wouldn't be as much of a real blindside hit, because you're having these discussions, you're having these conversations, and presumably if you're the one breaking up with somebody, you will have had a reason for it, and you would have been trying to maybe work on those things. So obviously you can just discover that person's not the one for you at a certain point as well. But if there's like an issue and you're working on it,
Yep.
and having that communication all the time, then if that issue doesn't get resolved, both parties are kind of on the same page and realize, well, I guess this issue was the one that did it.
Yep. So there's like one more question here that I think is super worthwhile, but I think we have the potential to go a little bit long talking about it. So are there any questions in the chat that we want to hit that you guys notice? Okay.
Oh, we already answered them.
Okay. So along the lines of like the wounds thing,
Wounds.
I think we all can recognize that we all, when we enter into relationships, we bring all of our own baggage and currently like previously existing wounds with us, pre-existing wounds, pre-existing conditions, pre-existing wounds with us.
Those do
Those are
make
wounds
your
counter. I
premiums
just
go
said
up a
wounds
little
about
bit.
Are those
times.
covered by okay.
By dating insurance.
It makes you more susceptible to coronavirus for sure.
We shouldn't laugh. That's not funny. Okay. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's not funny.
It is fun.
So can you guys talk about, let's say that you start dating a woman, really like her, think this is really going somewhere, and it's unearthed at some point that there are some serious wounds there that, what, the rent?
The rent is too high.
Just keep going, Mary Kate. Keep going.
Only Eric got my joke.
I get it.
We got it. We
Keep
just
going,
laughed.
Mary
You
Kate.
just, why would you not laugh at that? That's funny. Okay. Anyway.
Sorry.
So you're dating a woman. It's been a little while. You're starting to really get to know each other, get into some of the, deeper stuff, whatever. It's unearthed that she has some serious wounds, from, her just different things that have happened in her life, maybe divorced parents or some childhood trauma, some other things that actually present some serious potential challenges in a relationship in some shape or form. Not, again, that is not to say that all people who have divorced parents have, struggle in relationships, whatever. I'm just examples. Is that a deal breaker for you? And how do you maneuver that? What do you do? How do you approach that?
Well, it really depends on that personal, how far it is into the relationship, right? And whether it's something that was, if it's something like intentionally hidden or just something that wasn't brought to the forefront, because that's an issue in and of itself. But obviously these are normally things that are going to come up much later in a relationship. And I feel like there almost has to be some kind of groundwork laid. Like you can't just drop this kind of information on somebody. So you kind of have to build up to it somehow. I don't know how, but I would say, very personally speaking, like that's something, again, that you communicate about, you work through. Like there are some things that we have 2 Eric Nybers now, so that's great.
That's great.
There are some things that are probably just gonna. It's not that like the woman having divorced parents would be the deal breaker, but like the way that it affected her, maybe it in that specific instance just can't be worked through. But I don't think that that's ever like on its own. Like,
yeah, that makes sense.
It's not gonna be an issue on its own.
Well said, John.
Let me give a little bit of a more specific answer, I guess. Like, or to build on that answer. Sorry. So like, sometimes like we're not called to carry somebody's specific wound.
Right.
sometimes we are. So like, that's part of the dating and discernment process. Like once these things come about, we have to give each other the license to decide if these things are deal breakers or not.
Right.
Because, you know, what maybe, because we all have wounds, right? Nobody's perfect here, right? So like, so like that's part of the dating process, is like once these things come about, and maybe it's a personality thing or a history thing or a family thing, that's part of the discernment process, is like, am I the person that's called to help this person I'm dating in a particular area, and vice versa. And that's just one of the things you got to work out. And oftentimes we're not called to do that. And then, you know, that maybe it's time to move another.
Oh goodness, I was going to ask a follow-up question.
I feel like this is what kind of came up on the women's chat, on the lady chat, of like, you know, maybe it was in the comments of like, when do you bring up a guy? I think the specific thing was like, when would you address a guy addicted to porn, or some sort of serious thing? Like, when would you call that out? And, you know, it was, you know, what point? So this is kind of a sort of a similar thing of like, when do you get to these things, and what do you do with it? I don't know. It's hard to know, you know, what would be like the too much point for me. But the fact that I'm also bringing in wounds and baggage, then, I mean, it's a two-way street. You're all laughing at the comments, I know, but it makes me feel bad.
I'm sorry, Kev. Keep going. We're not laughing at you. I'm sorry. Hey, welcome to my world. You guys are always having a side conversation when I'm talking.
I'm just here to make Mary Kate laugh. So sorry, keep going.
I mean, it's like, you got to remember that, like, for some people, things are like bigger deals than others. So like, I remember, like, I've dated girls before, and I was like, well, you know, she's kind of struggling with this thing. And like, my buddy's like, oh, it's not a big deal at all. But then he may say vice versa, some issue that he's like, I don't know about this. And I'm like, no, man, it's nothing, you know? So like, everybody's different. I think we all have different capacities to carry each other's stuff. And that's
and usually like those, maybe before you get to the conversation of like, what's behind that, like some of that it is playing out in their life. Like you're seeing the results of those wounds, of that baggage wearing out in their life. And you're making, and I think this is to John's point of like, you know, it's like a woman's parents being divorced, or a parent who passed away maybe at a young age, like that itself is like, okay, yeah, we live in the 21st century. That's a very real possibility. But like, if that's really negatively affected her to the point where like, you know, she sees marriage as this complete joke, or, you know, that like, you know, we have to like sign a prenup before we get married, because like, well, marriage is end in divorce, so we just got to protect ourselves. Like, okay, yeah, then there's some problems that, again, not an immediate deal breaker, but okay, now we have to work through those things. So usually the baggage and the wounds themselves are not the issue. It's how are you bearing? How's those wounds bearing out in your life? And you're gonna see that. It's not gonna be like some hidden thing from you. I'm not that oblivious to not notice some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Mary Kate, so like we all have wounds, and so I think it's really important that in the relationship that you're at, that you love those people, like, and you respect their wounds. And as I've mentioned before, on like, it's very common for women to try to like save men, I've noticed a lot of times, and just kind of like, oh, I have to change him or something like that. Like that's super, super toxic.
Totally.
But there's a good desire in there, and like people change in relationships. Like Derek said this in one of our earlier podcasts. It was so good in the comments, where just like in relationships, like people change and wounds are healed. Like that's a real thing. And to the best of your ability, you just love people, like in spite of their wounds. You're not the healer, you're not the cure. That healing might happen through that relationship, but you cannot take on any kind of like a savior figure. So yeah.
And you know what?
For the people that have the wounds, don't go looking for a relationship to fix them.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And you know what, Dan, I would add to that too, that I think some of the things we have to look at are, which, you know, I mean, I think for those of us who, you know, have been in the Catholic dating world for a long time, it feels very obvious, but I think for a lot of us, this is something we have to learn. For me, this was something I had to like learn in an experience, is that like that there's a difference between the difference between taking on like the savior role in a relationship and you know, accepting a person's wounds looks different in that, is this leading me further to the Lord and what authentic love looks like? Or is it leading me away? You know, am I like the fruits of the Holy Spirit? Are the fruits of the Holy Spirit present in this relationship? You know, peace, kindness, are they there or are they not? And if they're not, you know, like that constant turmoil that I think that we've all had that we are in a relationship and we're just experiencing this like inner turmoil all the time. The fruits of the Holy Spirit exist for us for a reason. And I think that's an example of something that we can look at in these relationships that we're dating someone who's wounded. Again, we're all wounded, and ask ourselves, like, do I feel the fruits of the Holy Spirit present here? Or is there more of a barrenness or like a, you know, a lack of that? And I think that should kind of tell us where we're at. Am I trying to be the savior, or am I really loving and in love accepting this person?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Mic drop.
I don't know when you guys ask questions in the chat if you're really being serious, or
They're
if
never
you're like,
serious. Just assume they're
No.
never serious.
No,
Always
What?
assume they're not serious.
I don't know. Maybe that was a serious question. I don't know.
no, like the answer is, there we go. Perfect. That's the answer.
Oh my goodness.
Could I just comment what you said, Mary Kate? I think that was a really profound observation. If you don't feel a sense of peace, and peace is probably the overall descriptor here. When you're in a relationship with someone, this is beyond the dating phase. I like to keep dating separate from relationship. I think
For sure.
I do a lot of dating, but I haven't done a lot of relationships. So
That's a fair separation.
And the reason you date should be to get into a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they ought to be separate, and you shouldn't be doing relationship things while you're dating. Definitely. But I also think, when you've gotten past the dating phase and you are now in a committed relationship with someone, no matter how far along it is, if you have sussed out what the wounds are for yourself and for your, your significant other, and you don't have a sense of peace, and you don't feel like this is where I ought to be, that ought to be a red flag, and that ought to mean you need to talk, at the very least. And more likely, you probably need to ask yourself how you got here and what were you really looking for. I'm talking mainly to the guys here, who might be listening, not so much to the women. I think guys might screw this up a lot faster and a lot easier than girls do, at least from my own experience. Where it's just like, how did we get here? How did we end up here? What was I in this for? What was I, what did I think was going to happen? Now the only way out is a painful way out. And I think if you're not feeling peace and you're not feeling honesty, you should disengage, or at least have a very, very honest talk with yourself and then with your significant other. And
the peace thing is so huge.
It's like Discernment 101.
I legit had a moment where I was dating a girl, and I was flying back to Maryland, and I used to live in Maryland, and like the entire plane flight, I was like so anxious and like so like I was like full of like this dread, and it was kind of like what am I doing to myself? Like, this is clearly an issue where I need to be honest with myself and honest with this girl. Like, it's just not working out. It's not meant to be. It's definitely a real thing, and it's an excellent point about peace.
And don't be afraid to ask the friends that you trust, like, what they think about it too. What's really cool is, like, in relationships, especially like if a lot of friends are involved, and like like the time you spend together and stuff like that, like your friends will oftentimes notice things, and like oftentimes they'll be able to pick up on problems like before you even vocalize them too, which is really cool. And just like,
And family.
That would be on like a top 3 deal breaker for me, is if she couldn't be friends with my friends. See ya, you're gone. It's like that would be a huge thing for me. So you're welcome, guys.
One-way ticket to the seminary right there.
Another thing to build off of that is when we were asking yourself, how did we get here? I don't know if this is going to be helpful to women because maybe it's blaringly obvious. I don't know. But I think that a lot of guys, particularly guys who have not done a lot of dating earlier in life, they may be dating because they feel like they ought to, because they have to get it over with. They have to like see what it means and how it feels like. And I know for myself, when I first started dating, that's kind of how kind of ashamed to say it, but that's kind of how I felt. I also think that there are some guys who are just kind of in it for the physical side of things, and they might play it off like that. But I hate to tell you, and I'm sure a lot of women have learned this as well, and I'm sure this is going to be true no matter what kind of belief system you have, and whether this is a Catholic, dating pool that you're in or not. I think guys who are new to dating are going to be susceptible to kind of making this mistake and going out with people and just seeing where things go without asking too much of themselves. And then kind of, all of a sudden things do maybe get physical, and all of a sudden this means something, and that's bad. You should be doing what Dan said, stay away from that sort of thing until you're married, right? Ideally. I think that some people will obviously screw up there. And especially if, let's say, drinks are involved, people are both feeling really great, and, chemistry is flowing. So I would caution against that if you're a guy listening to this, and really think twice. Why are you dating this person at every step of the way on every date? I'll just leave it at that.
That's great advice, Eric.
Nice.
Yeah, I would just add that I think in general, a lot of the things we've touched on, I think we need to just be gentle with each other in dating. I think in general, dating is really hard. And I think, like, Kev, to your point about that anxiety, I think that sometimes that anxiety surprises us. Like, it might be really, I think sometimes it surprises us. I think sometimes we turn a corner in some shape or form in the relationship, and all of a sudden it becomes very clear to one person that it's not the right thing. And I think we just have to be gentle with each other about those things. So.
Yeah. Give them permission to work on their crap, like, and give them space to do so. Like, we're all working on it, but just like, yeah.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Any final thoughts, questions, hot takes, bad jokes?
Just to address it in the chat, I keep hearing y'all say "girl." Why not say "women"? Sorry, it's not a trying to, like, the same reason that Mary Kate's been calling us boys. Like, it just kind of, it's a more colloquial turn of phrase than it is a state on the maturity.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not a conscious thing. So.
My last thought is the thought I had earlier. Dating's supposed to be fun. It's not all miserable. This is supposed to be one of the most enjoyable parts of our life, especially when we find the person we're supposed to be with. So keep that in mind.
The potential reward of asking a woman out and finding your wife that you're gonna, God willing, have a family with, far outweighs the momentary fear or anxiety of rejection. So
that's the clincher.
Do it.
And I would say for ladies, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. To reiterate what I said, if you're at a party and there's a guy that catches your eye and he's just clueless, put yourself in his space, see if he wants to talk to you one-on-one on the balcony or something like that, or in the back, and he'll hopefully pick up on that. If he doesn't, then don't waste your time with somebody like that.
In the words of my Aunt Janie, wink at that man.
There you go.
Not that one, only that one. Yeah, gents. You're gonna play the way you practice, and so if you want to be dating and you want to be selfless, then you need to start living a life that's like that, even if you're not dating. So
That's so real.
it might be time. Like for some young adults, sometimes the questions we ask, like, when are you actually gonna start living like you're not in college anymore? I heard a priest say that once, and was like,
Holy mackerel, that's
time.
convicting.
One.
It's time.
Holy mackerel encounter one.
Finally.
Yeah, I know.
Nice.
Took us this long, but we finally got a holy mackerel.
So practice living for other people.
All right, guys. If there's nothing else, I think we should pray. Who wants to lead us
The
in prayer?
Kevin O'Malley comment of the night.
Oh my
Word it.
gosh.
Come
Okay.
on, the commenter.
This one's gonna have it's gonna go to Ben Rahimi. Now we gotta point out Ben Rahimi was lived in the same hall as Mr. Eric Nyberg. I believe Eric, you were his RA.
Nice.
I was. When
Yeah.
he was a friend. Yeah.
That's
Love Ben.
awesome.
Great guy.
So what the first one was? I gotta find it. It had to do with the
It's
buddy.
so great.
Uh,
And God fashioned out of the man a buddy.
Wait, Ben said that? I thought that Kevin said that. Oh
No,
my god.
Kevin just
Ben.
copied and
I
pasted.
thought it was.
That's
and
awesome.
then his second one was when Eric left. He goes, "Did Nyberg just ghost the podcast?"
I let myself, I'm never going to live this down with Ben. But Ben
Yeah.
texted me. He said, I love the way you're putting these nuts in your mouth.
Oh boy.
Aw, come on, guys.
These are raisins. These are chocolate raisins. I will have you know. May the record show these are chocolate raisins. So I'm on my phone.
Oh, we went 2 hours without a
All right.
joke like that, Eric.
Hey, it's not my fault. It's Ben.
Oh, Ben.
So the reason I lost the chat was because I went to respond to him on my phone because it came in as a text, and I thought I wouldn't lose the chat, but since I'm on my phone, the chat disappeared. And then Ben was like, "Oh, Eric ghosted." So yeah, take that, Ben.
All right, now we can.
Raisins.
Raising
I
the
On
bar.
that note, who'd like to lead us in prayer?
I can lead us in prayer.
Cool.
All right.
All
In the
right.
name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
Dear Lord, thank you for sending your Spirit to guide this conversation. Father, continue to bless everyone who's watching this podcast. For the men out there, for them to have courage and confidence in dating, for women to be receptive and open, and Lord, for us to listen to you, to listen to your will, and if we're called to marriage, to find that person and to live our vocations well. We thank you. We continue to ask for the intercession of your Holy Mother as we pray. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. The Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Woo! Same time next week.
Woo!
What's our topic
Thank you,
next week?
guys. Appreciate it.
That
Yeah,
we are
Eric, thanks.
Yeah,
That
Nyberg,
was
thanks so
awesome.
much,
That
man.
was
Nice
so
job.
great. That was so awesome.
If there's
Like
Like
anything
the
you want,
perfect. This was the perfect crew to do this with. This topic. This was awesome.
if there's topics you want to hear about, hit us up on social media.
Yeah, we have a Gmail. You can send us an email too.
What's the
Oh,
email
wow.
address,
It's-
Mary Kate?
It's the Chicago Inquisition at gmail.com.
Wow.
Amazing
So-
that
I'm
wasn't
gonna
taken
send
already.
you.
I know. So you guys should send us like fan mail and then we can like, I don't know, do something with
Read
it.
Read it as it comes
Read it.
in.
Yeah.
Without reading.
I mean,
through
that's
it first.
what this entire podcast is reading the fan mail as it comes in.
Yeah, that's quite literally a very big portion of what this whole thing is. So,
All right.
well, guys, thanks.
Great job, everybody.
Any bonus noodles tonight?
Bonus noodles.
Depends on how well you
I missed
exit
him.
the live stream.
Tim, we miss you.
We miss you, Tim.
He showed up in the chat at the very end.
He did.
Yeah.
Tim
He had
Berryhill.
He had a pretty good comment, but I didn't want to call attention to it because
Because why?
well, it brings to light a very, one of my wounds right now is not having a beard.
Oh. John, we just love being able to see your chin, though.
I don't. No. That's he does not speak for the rest of us.
I'm
think it's
whatever. I think the Manor roommates agree with me. Like John has a whole he expresses emotion down here, and we all thought he didn't have emotions, and now he has no beard, and it's like
He
this
expresses
guy
emotion
feels
with his
feels
chin.
things. What?
We didn't know he had emotions.
Hey, you know what? I just had
Breaking
realization.
news.
John looks like the guy who plays Rick from The Walking Dead.
Who, what?
John looks like the lead character from The Walking Dead, the main guy.
Yeah, that's the character he looks like. Or did he like just totally ignore? Like, well, not the beard. Actually, it's true.
Yeah, without the beard.
Well, right.
Not the beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
A lot like
sad.
that was meant as a compliment,
Yeah.
but fine. Nobody knows what I'm talking about.
Well, Kevin's
All
just
right.
upset that it's not Jon Snow anymore. That's yeah.
All right, we gotta roll out.
We've overstayed our welcome.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
Everyone else
Bye.
leave except Kevin and John. Bye.
Yeah.